and we're going to talk about the genetic trauma of shame. Now, individuals who dealing with this may harbor this deep-seated belief that they are inadequate. They feel like they can't meet expectations of others in the world, and maybe they feel less valuable than other people because of this. This sense of inadequacy can lead to overcompensating, being excessively responsible, even responsible for other people's emotions. And on the outside, this could show up as someone who works really hard, is a perfectionist, someone who's a giver. But sacrificial relationships, whether within the family or the workplace or any other dynamic, even with your children, is something that's very common with the manifestation of this genetic trauma. When confronted by fear of failure, individuals with shame-related genetic trauma can resort to deflecting their emotions through humor or trying to not feel bad. So what will happen is, no judgment, but you may begin to shame other people, especially children. I don't know what it is about our children, but a lot of times this shows up in that way. And you may even hear yourself or others say, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. How many times have we heard that one? These things are what I call the 3D matrix programming. It's the conditioning that many of us experience. So if you are someone that's dealing with this, it may be difficult. You may find yourself grappling with just a sense of self-worth and a sense of, I'm okay with not being okay. I don't have to be perfect. For men, this may be financial success, more centered around money, how much material things they can attain, to not be ashamed as a man, because you should have these things, right? You should be able to do this and do that. And so it leads to this pursuit of self-worth by manipulating external things and people. This drive to be validated can actually lead to less self-worth. And in order to get over this genetic trauma, one of the most crucial steps to free yourself from this burden of unworthiness will actually lead to being able to unlock the potential for more heartfelt, authentic self-expression, better relationships that are not based around you trying to avoid feeling ashamed and inadequate, but relationships built around authenticity, where people will love you for you. And if you struggle with feeling inadequate and just feel like you don't compare well with others, you may take on way more responsibility, take on way more jobs and projects. And this is sometimes people working 2 and 3 jobs, and it's not always necessary, but they're trying to find something to make them feel worthy, to make them feel successful, to make them feel less ashamed. And so in certain dynamics like this, oftentimes it is rooted in our childhood conditioning, but more often than not, this is something that's inherited. This is also called epigenetics. And, if you're someone dealing with this, you may find comfort by deflecting. You may find comfort by projecting how you feel onto others. You could be upset with something you didn't accomplish, and you may find yourself being upset with other people outside of you who seem like they're missing the mark, and you may unleash all of that energy of discomfort within yourself onto them. The most important thing is to be able to confront these feelings, but through your heart, to have compassion on yourself in these areas where you feel like you don't measure up. This is embedded so deep that oftentimes we are operating on a subconscious level. So we're not really aware that we are actually creating circumstances to prove to us we have a reason to be ashamed. This is really powerful. And taking responsibility for everything in your reality that shows up, even if you don't know how, is a huge step, because this means you're stepping into your power and you're saying maybe it's a subconscious thing, the reason why these things are happening, and maybe I'm subconsciously being a vibrational match to certain situations, people, places, and things, and that's why it's happening. And once you can have that perception, you're more able to make changes and be able to navigate your life different. Being a high value man or woman is this new topic that is something a lot of people are talking about now. And one of the things that I feel is, without knowing the subconscious imprint within you, without knowing how to overcome these subconscious things within the psyche, these shadow repressed characteristics that were so painful, we hid them even from ourselves. So we operate from a state of unconscious, subconscious energy. Without knowing this, how can you become a high value man or woman? And I feel that it's necessary to actually get to know your shadow self deeper. The conscious self and the affirmations and a lot of the techniques that are used is great. But if you have different false self masks that you use to defend yourself and protect yourself, and it's actually something that was constructed by your ego, usually between the ages of 1 and 8, then anything that you're doing is more like a veneer and you're not really changing the root. So one of the most powerful tools to help you be able to actually invest in yourself, to not need external validation, to feel worthy of everything that you desire, to not have to be codependent, people-pleasing, and self-sacrificing in your relationships, always the giver, always overcompensating, always willing to take on responsibility for everything happening, managing other people's emotions, trying to be the peacemaker at all times. I mean, that's a great skill, but if you're doing it all the time and you're forfeiting your own beautiful future to try to be in this space that's not helping you, you're actually creating conflict within yourself. And this can lead to resentment. This can actually lead to more shame, and so, when I'm doing research about, okay, what is going to be the next series? What am I going to talk about next? What do I feel like would be helpful for people? It's based on what has helped me. And shame was something that I carry very deeply. It's not my specific genetic trauma out of the 6 we're discussing. However, this is a collective trauma as well. So this is the reason that I created the shame detox, the mindset reset, to be able to detox some of the roots of shame. And after working with over 150 people in that program, I learned so many things, and I saw so many similarities between us, different ages, different genders, different races, ethnicities. Like, this is something that has touched every human being on this planet in some shape, form. And so being able to figure out, like, how is that being held in my auric field? How am I broadcasting this out in my unconscious non-verbal behavior, right? And so once you're able to connect these dots and find these links, what you will notice is a lot of the energy that you were spending to try to fix things in your life. Again, this is the veneer. If you're trying to fix external things in your life without going deeper to the root and the shadow work, reprogramming the subconscious mind, but first you got to know what's in there. And, a lot of energy is wasted trying to do things the way somebody else did it. So being able to figure out, no, but what works for me? What is going to add value to me? What is going to help me feel worthy? And being able to be in a space of non-judgment and a space where you're able to really open up your heart and receive the information. This is what's going to be the foundation for you to build this new version of yourself. And I mentioned this in day 2 about being a nuclear reactor, right? What happened with Fukushima and so many other things that we're learning have polluted this planet is actually a reflection of the way we have been polluted as a collective and individually. And at some point, you got all of these people working, trying to manage this nuclear reactivity that's occurring. But at some point, the pressure builds up so much to where no amount of micromanagement is going to stop this disaster that is unfolding. And, what I find interesting is that the universe is mirroring what's happening deep within us on the outside, and being able to connect those dots and see that, it helps you to save your energy and to use your energy only for what's actually going to bring the transformation and change into your life. And so this is where you are able to no longer be a nuclear reactor and become a new clear creator. Exact same letters, just reframed. And that's the beauty of language, is that there are hidden things within our language that reveal the solutions to some problems that we maybe have experienced for generations. And this is why this series about genetic trauma was so important for me to put together, because I truly believe the key to healthier relationships, more fulfilling lives, careers that actually align with what you're passionate about, doing what you love, is what creates the new earth, and it's also what will shift the paradigm of the collective beliefs and value systems. And this offers our children and grandchildren a world that we wish we would have experienced, and you can be the one to create that world. So, you are the microcosm of the macrocosm. And when you're working with the astrology and the I Ching and the Kabbalah and your soul contracts, past lives, the Akashic record, your human design, specifically knowing your genetic trauma, that's like everything that will teach you about you and the soul contracts that you agreed to in this incarnation, and how to be able to actually step into your I divine self versus it being something outside of you feel like you're constantly chasing and trying to reach. So I invite you to book your human design Akashic record reading, where I will spend a few days. Sometimes I spend more than a few days. It just depends. Everybody's is different. But I will gather all of the information, look over the information, and will create a file for you where you can print it out and you can create the own book of you, right? The own book of the new you that you're creating. And once I do that, then we can spend a whole hour talking about the contents in there. And, it's more than a reading. It's like talking to your I divine self, talking to this kindred spirit who understands what you're going through. And the only intention is to be able to give you the tools to show you the power that lies within your psyche on a subconscious level. And it brings me so much joy, so much bliss and pleasure to be able to use my gifts as an Akashic record reader and to blend these different modalities to give you this experience. So the link will be in the description. I'll be back for day 4 and day 5 and day 6. And if I have not said anything that resonates with you yet, just sit tight, because trust me, it's coming. All right. Namaste. Numi stay.